Hello and welcome to Level 9 Magic Club. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Fuzz. Joined with me is my close personal friend, the Rage Knight himself, Ryan. How are you today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hanging in there. I'm excited. There's been a lot of prep going into this to, hopefully start this thing and get the ball rolling and get some cool stories out there. How are you excited?
Debut episode. Definitely. I mean, I feel bad for anybody who has to listen to me, but yeah, that's their fault.
Yeah, me too. Quite honestly, I'm not sure why we're doing this. Kind of silly, but to get into it, let's just talk about what we're going to be doing with this podcast and what to expect from us in the future, and hopefully for a long time, and something we can make into a household name maybe one day.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you're like, I really don't care who these people are, I just will watch a couple of their episodes about the content and kind of base it off that, feel free to skip and go to the next episode because we're going to actually get into the meat and potatoes. But we figured anybody who cared to figure out who they're listening to, this is this episode. We're going to break down who we are, what the show contents look like, what the flow is every time we're going to log in here, so that way you kind of know. And if you're not interested in that, move along to the next one.
Yep, and hopefully we'll have some good juicy stuff. We'll talk about new sets when they come out. Commanders, we're big Commander buffs. General Magic news, anything that might affect the community as a whole, the game as a whole, any kind of big game-changing things that Wizards might come out with. And that's what I aim to look at. So basically, general Magic discussion. Anything that could be going on in the world of Magic in the next year, events, whatever you could think of. We might talk about some, Magic card shows rather that we go to. Maybe some SCG cons, or hopefully some of the bigger events that Wizards puts on throughout the year. They're not as many as they used to be when we first started playing, but definitely would like to get back to some of those.
Plus, let's talk about, this will be a lot of, I think, the episodes as well, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but stories and experiences about the game, things we've encountered firsthand. I think we even talked about bringing people on so we can get some different perspectives. You're not just hearing us. And then, the culture of Magic, what the Wizards is doing that's good, bad, probably bad, and how we're going to survive it and still play Commander, because that's what we're here to do. It's, probably not going to be your card for card deck tech that you're looking, that you're seeing a lot on YouTube, right? If you load up YouTube, I want to build, Zur the Enchanter, and you're going to find some dude who's going to break every single card down. If you're looking for that, it's probably not going to be so much that. We may bring up some commanders in a new set coming out that we might be excited about, so that would be cool, but it'd be broad strokes, not card for card, so more about general discussion on that.
Right, and just to let everybody know up front, we're mainly Commander players. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot, because that's what our play group plays. We have a group of about, what would you say, 20 guys? Maybe, give or take.
In the ballpark, between, I guess, two groups that we play within, but yeah, overall.
Yeah, so we have the OGs who've been playing since, one of them has been playing since the game started. A couple others have been playing shortly after that. So we have a lot of years of experience in Magic. And, we played all of the cool stuff, standard, modern, legacy. I was a big standard player back in the day, draft, sealed, pre-release events, things of that nature.
Yeah,
but really,
draft was fun. It just killed me.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it. But our wheelhouse is in Commander. That's mainly what our group plays. And I think a lot of the players that are playing nowadays are really into Commander. Not saying the other formats are bad, it's just that's what we really enjoy. And I think Commander kind of puts the gathering in Magic. That's why we enjoy enjoy playing
these
it.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the reason Wizards, I'm sorry, not even Wizards, just Magic and Gathering in general survives, because everything is seemingly moved to Commander, where Standards died off, which is actually kind of sad to see because it was so fun. And it's a shame that, like, we go to our LGS and they're like, yeah, Friday Night Magic doesn't exist. It's basically like guys show up for Commander. It's a thing of the past, apparently. I don't know about anybody else's LGS, but hopefully Standard's still existing, because I still think it's a viable format. But yeah, Commander is definitely here to stay, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't see it going anywhere. And I can recall the days of going to F&M, and it was just always Standard. And it would be 30 to 50 people playing. And there was always a good game, always exciting games. I'd get my tail beat in most of the time, but it was fun. It was just, I enjoyed it a lot. But the nice thing about Commander is there's really not a set schedule for it, You can play it whenever. You can play it with your buddies. And I think that's, for me...
Yeah, casual, not casual. Your choice.
Exactly. And you kind of get to play it how you want to play it, for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, so that kind of gives everybody perspective of what we're looking at. It's going to be general Commander discussion and culture surrounding that. Anything new coming up that's worth paying attention to. So, but beyond that, I mean, if you want to start it off, like, who the heck are you and why should they listen to you?
Yeah, so I'm Fuzz. I've been playing Magic since 2011. So 15 years officially now. I started playing when I was 18. So quite a long time for me, but I still don't think it compares to how long you've been playing.
No, I'm ancient.
Way older and way less better looking.
No, that's completely false, but luckily they can't see you, that no one would show up.
So how long have you been playing?
25 years, since 2001 officially, but I was a fanboy before that in the late 90s because it looked so cool. I'm like, somebody's got to teach me this game, and I was a kid, and who wants to teach some snot-nosed kid how to play this game? Who has time for that? So I just would collect the cards because I'm like, these look cool. I want to keep buying them. And then eventually my cousin was willing to sit down and teach me, thank the Lord, because I was finally able to play this game that I kept collecting that looked so cool, and it ended up actually being really cool. So
right on. And so you mentioned your cousin was the one who showed you how to play. So he introduced you to the game then. So how was that experience?
Well, hold on. You're just running right to me, buddy. You never even finished. You just jumped away from you. And I know I'm very important, but you can also tell about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing fun to tell other than I started playing right after high school and into college. So, when I started playing Paper Magic, because I started there was a video game. I don't remember the exact name. I think it was called Magic Planeswalkers, but it was based around the M12 set.
Wasn't it Duels of the Planeswalkers or something like that?
Yeah, Duels of the Planeswalkers. It's been so long since I played it that I just don't remember.
Been a minute.
Yeah, and so I started with that game in 2011. That was the year I graduated. And I started collecting the paper variant, and I would play in the library where I went to school with the guy who taught me. And I probably played with a couple other people at that point in time, but yeah, that was a while ago. It brings back memories thinking about it now, sitting in the library and going up to the computer lab, maybe doing some homework, and then in between classes, maybe getting a game of Magic in, which was really fun.
That's cool. And it is neat. And today you kind of have a similar introduction to Magic that people play Magic Arena. And so it does a really good job, it seems like, to help new people learn how to play this game. And then they can really take off from there and say, okay, I could buy paper cards. I kind of have an understanding of how the mechanics work for the most part. And it's a lot easier than when I started, when you had to have somebody show you, and, learning all the phases and steps in an abstract way isn't always easy, compared to like when you're playing Arena or like Duels of the Planeswalker or countless other games, I'd say at this point, where they go step by step and show you like the stack when it goes off and your upkeep phases when things trigger and all that. The visuals are super helpful for new players, I think.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So I remember playing that game and the stack, the way it kind of interacted on your screen when you played it, it kind of gave you that visual understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
And anytime I'd try to teach somebody new, if we weren't playing that game, it was obviously very difficult to teach them. And I'm really glad that they have Arena now. That way you can, because it does a very good job of visualizing the stack as well and kind of giving you an idea of what that looks like and kind of how to interact with it and understand that there is one and there is something that happens before your cards go on the field. And I think with our group, the Level 9 Magic Club, a lot of those guys started on Arena, so that was super helpful to kind of get them into the game.
Yeah, and before I remember, if the stack started getting complicated, what I would do, back in my day, I would lay the cards out like on top of each other, depending on how they laid in the stack. So I would try to like replicate that visual that you kind of can see easily now in Arena. But, if you played a card and I responded with the counter spell, then maybe I'd laid the counter spell on top of the card. And then if you responded with, okay, well, that's fine. I'm going to play a negate on that counter spell. And then, so if I was explaining that, I would lay them on top of each other until like everybody understood, like especially if it's early in somebody's career playing Magic, that seemed to help with the visuals. Right.
And that's sometimes something that I know that I still do with newer players whenever there's a lot going on and we slow the game down. Even with more advanced players that have been playing a long time like us, it's easier to just say, okay, you're doing this action. Now it's my turn. I can put an action on the stack and I'm going to put it here. Something else might trigger on the battlefield and it goes on the stack too. So it does still help to slow that down and kind of put those cards visually on top of each other.
Well, yeah, especially in Commander, it's like 4 people, 4 people's triggers potentially going off, and multiple for each person. That's a lot. So how do you like visualize that? How do you make it simple so that everybody resolves correctly? Because even with experienced players, like that's a lot to try to understand whatever, everything's happening in what order. So yeah, to this day, it's still pretty effective.
Right. And I would have to say that if you're new to Magic and you're wanting to get into it, Arena is the way to go. There's so many different ways to play the game, and it's so easy to play. Like you can get it on your phone, and you can get, your feet wet via a mobile app. So definitely would recommend that if you're trying to get friends to play, or if you're just dabbling in Magic. That's a great place to start because you can pay to buy packs and do those things, but it's all free for the most part. And it kind of lets you learn the game. Yeah.
It's like, let's play this game like free 99 and then see how it goes. And if we like it, then we can kind of invest. So it's a pretty good deal. It's really the gateway drug for Magic. So, oh, cool. I'll play this game on my phone. Well, that was fun. Okay. Well, how can I ruin my friendships? I can get them to play this. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Now I don't have to have friends.
Especially if your friends are gamers. I mean, I grew up playing video games all the time. I was, Call of Duty, Skyrim, anything I could get my hands on. So any kind of new game I could play that might bend my brain a little bit more than I could handle was fun to me. Something I had to figure out, or any kind of puzzle. And I think you were the same way. You played a lot of RPGs that, had different puzzles, and it kind of flexes your mind.
Yeah, I always like that. But I mean, that's like anybody who, if you like reading or any of these things, gaming, yeah, it expands your mind. It gives you abstract ideas and a set of rules that's beyond, IRL, how we do things, right? And so then your mind adapts to that and is able to figure out, how do I break this game? How do I be competitive in it? Learn its mechanics and all that stuff. So it's cool. It's cool. It's good for your mind, I'd say, too, cognitively exercising it.
Right.
But I mean, kind of steering back to some background for you, what would be your first set, by the way? Because actually, I have to think about this. What set was my first, to be honest?
So the first set I saw in person that I remember was New Phyrexia, and
Okay.
we were in the mall. I can't remember who was with us. I just remember my friend who showed me how to play was with me, and we walk up to this brand new comic book store in the mall. Like, our area had never had anything like that, to my recollection, that had like board games as well, comic books. Mm-hmm. And when you first walk into the store, there was a display, and man, they were gutsy because they had booster boxes with packs at the front of the store. And this is just me recalling off the top of my head, but it had this weird looking creature. It almost looked like Alien, like smiling at you. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty wild. What is that? And he was telling me about it, and he was like, there's actually a game we can play on Xbox if you want to play. And so the first set that I saw and experienced was New Phyrexia, but the first set that I played would be M12.
Okay.
So it was a core set, which I think worked out pretty well. It wasn't based on a plane. It was kind of a generic set, like, here's our, hey, you might get a creature with vigilance or flying. Here's some cool angels, soldiers. It kind of dipped everywhere in the multiverse at the time. So It was a good set to start in. And it was a really fun set. I remember pulling like Sun Titan, Primeval Titan, Inferno Titan. Yeah, Grave Titan, all the Titans.
That's fun.
Yeah, I remember actually, because I played the game on Xbox, you got a promo code that you could, it would send to your email, like your Xbox account. Mm-hmm. And you'd just take it into your local game store, and they would give you a promo Frost Titan. So awesome. I think I have a playset of those still, the promos, because nobody really liked Frost Titan at the time, but he was really good. Just a tangent a little bit. One of the guys I met playing at that store when Innistrad came out, because that was the set after M12, he would play a blue-black like control deck, and his strategy was to play Heartless Summoning, which when you play it, it's a 2-mana enchantment that makes your creature spells cost 2 colorless less to cast, but they get -1/-1. But you could cast a Frost Titan for 4, tap down a permanent, and just attack.
Do a 5/5, right?
Yeah, 5/5, hit you in the face. It was really cool. So, yeah, M12 was my first set. Really enjoyed it. A lot of good cards. What was your first set? Because it had to be something cool.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, it was... I'm trying to recall. I don't know if I could say I had a first set, per se, that I was hardcore buying, right? Because by the time I realized, like... Because at the time, I was collecting as a kid in the late 90s, so... Trying to think, it might have been like 6th edition, that kind of, I think, because I thought I was cool. I thought it was cool because I had a Scaled Worm. It's like a 7/6 for freaking like 7 mana, and I just thought there's no way somebody can stop this. And I'm pretty sure it was like a 6th edition card. And I got a bit of it, and I'm trying to think what else was around the time. But, late 90s to early 2000s. Go back, but like I said, I vividly remember 6th edition because that cool Scaled Worm. I think it was even like Earth Elemental, if you can remember that. Like I had that as well. It was like the white border rock version of a sumo wrestler. Like it's a very awkward card. Like I had those type of things. So it was very basic. If you had trample, you had flying, because like one of my first successful decks was just a deck that just had a bunch of flyers, and I was like, oh look, this is an abusive mechanic. I can fly over their creatures and directly attack them, and then I just thought I was the best player ever made. So it was a lot of the early stuff. I'd like to say that I was there since Magic's inception, but I was a little late, right? A few years. At least I was collecting a few years after it come out. But 2001 is when I actually could play the game at least somewhat.
Right. We were born just a little bit too late to start the game, but that's not a terrible thing.
what is it, 95 Magic come out? Something like
93.
that?
So
93.
it's super
Why did I
easy.
think 95?
Well, 95 makes sense. I think that was Pokemon 95 or 98, but
Yeah, I was about the Pokemon too. That makes sense.
right. And I remember collecting Pokemon cards when I was a kid, so that was kind of my first taste into trading cards.
Yeah.
But that 1993 is easy for me to remember because that's the year I was born. So I will
Dang.
always know
Dang.
how long Magic is, or how long it's been around rather, because I think we're only
Right.
a couple months apart. I don't know if I was born before it. I think it came out in the fall. I was born in the summer, so
Okay.
yeah, it was
That's
close to that
crazy.
time. So as
Well,
long
that
as you
makes
know how
sense,
old
'cause-
I am, you can remember how old Magic is.
Right. Yeah, because I would have been 4 when it kicked off. So, I mean, in the late 90s, that's when I was at least an older kid. That's why I was collecting them, because I could at least, like, I had somewhat of a brain at that point to go, hey, these look cool. I'll collect those, you know?
Right. And I bet Magic in the 90s and the early 2000s was a pretty cool time to play Magic because there wasn't the internet, and that was like something you could do with your buddies, and it's
Yeah.
not like it was now. So,
Oh, yeah, it's like, we met our friend Eric, and for the first time, I thought, like, man, I've got this game locked down. I've got this red elemental deck. I think you remember this deck. And I just think there's no way to stop it. It gets around my cousin's counter spell deck with Unearth, right? He counters my creature. That's okay. I play the Unearth cost, bring it back out, swing in. You can't stop it. I'm crazy good. And meet him for the first time, and he was playing elves. And again, like you said, it wasn't like as mainstream of a system as far as I'm aware that you could like look up and say, oh, look what builds there are. I'm sure there were forums and different things you can get on, like a Reddit type thing, to be informed more. I wasn't doing any of that, so my experience to better players when I met Eric was him playing that elf deck that, like, he did he cast one spell and untapped 15 things, tapped for infinite mana as far as I was concerned, played dumb stuff and killed me. And I went, wow, I'm terrible.
right.
So it was learning in real time, like what decks worked. Not so much like now, like I could go in arena with a brawl deck, but I'm really trying to build a commander, and I can kind of play test it, or I could put a deck concept on Mox Field and get like example hands over and over again and kind of see what the flow is, or just test my own decks. I've got a better system now, but then it was just who your buddies, and if you could beat them, well, you were doing pretty good, and you had to go like to an LGS, a local game store, or just around finding other players to really know if you were really good or if you were just isolated.
Right. And that was a lot of it, is getting that experience, and playing with Eric, man, it will take you to another level of playing Magic. He's probably the closest to playing a pro player that I've ever gotten.
Yeah,
he's
definitely.
really good. He's just really good. So it was always fun to play him and just play somebody who has that experience, and
just how they
knock
look
your
at
lights
stuff.
out. Yeah.
It really taught me, just playing that elf deck for the first time. It opened my mind up, right? I was saying, okay, I love what this guy's doing, the value he gets for every spell. He sets up a machine, which to this day is kind of how I play, because it was such an epiphany, right? I seen him do one thing but get multiple benefits because 3 and 4 different cards triggered, and I'm like, that's the way to play. Not one for one. Every turn I do one thing. It's actually like, no, every turn I do multiple things, and everything I do has multiple triggers, and that's how you break this game.
Right. And so you mentioned too, with building that deck, I remember that deck pretty vividly because it was so fun to watch. It was just a red fire and brimstone, and it's going to hit you as hard as you can. And I remember
it was like red deck wins is like the equivalent now. It's just fast red cards is basically what it was.
Yeah, like Ball Elemental, I can remember, was one of them.
Yep.
And I remember always talking to you about that deck, and one of the reasons you built it was because it was so fast, it was hard to stop. And so that kind of brings me to talking about how you were introduced to the game. You mentioned your cousin introduced you to the game, so tell everybody a little bit about that, like your introduction to it, when he taught you, and what that looked like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And when you first asked me, I deflected entirely. But so, I eventually moved closer to family in 2001, and so up to that point, like I mentioned before, I was just collecting based on visuals. Like I remember where I used to live, my best friend at the time, his older brother knew how to play Magic, but teenager wants to tell some snot-nosed kid how to play a card game when he can go skateboard with his buddies, play Magic and D&D, which is basically what he did. So he never wanted to teach me, and then the little I learned from his brother, my best friend at the time, he knew very minimal as well, so it was kind of tough. So when I finally moved closer to family, my cousins see me at a family reunion, actually, and I'm thumbing through the cards because at this point I'm bored, and what was I, 12 or something, and the adults are perfectly content sitting and talking, and you get that way as you get older, right? I get that way now. I could just sit in a room with people and talk. But for me, I'm like, now there's got to be a game going on. Cornhole wasn't a thing, and I was 12, so I can't hardly pick up the horseshoes to play that. So I'm just sitting at one of the park benches looking through my cards, and he comes over and he says, "Hey, would you like to be able to play that?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." It was like the heavens opened up. I'm like, thankfully somebody can show me this game. So he took some time to show me, and then as I got closer to him, since I was close to family now, I would just spend the summers over at his farm, and we would I'd help my uncle and my aunt do farm work throughout the day, which was cool. And then I would in the evenings it was on, man. We played Magic for God knows how long. And I proceeded for probably a year from 12 to 13 getting absolutely destroyed and figuring out that I had a hatred for counterspells, a deep hatred. And probably PTSD, because only at 37 do I finally go, counterspells aren't that bad. I played them myself, but, if I get countered to death, you know this very well. It's the moment I get multiple counterspells on stuff I'm doing, I just go Scorched Earth and start killing. Start just bringing out the worst decks possible I have to slay. So there's a bit of PTSD, like I was in Magic's version of Vietnam because of that, but eventually ended up winning a match against him with flyers, because I'm like, hey, I'll just use these flyers. I'll just be able to attack him with him not having a chance really to block. And that seemed to work. And from there, I just kept growing. I said, okay, so this game's more about, remember I mentioned Scaled Worm. I thought I was the coolest kid on the block with a Scaled Worm. It's not always about having this big creature on the field. It's about mechanics and how do I better play the game? How do I create a tempo to where every turn it's ratcheting up the pressure and it's getting worse and worse for my opponent? And how do I avoid obvious pitfalls and traps that they have, lying in wait for me? So for him, it was counterspelling. He counterspelled a lot. But, one thing I started to realize was, hey, a lot of these counterspells aren't like OG counterspell. They're also like negates. They're things like that do non-creature things. Well, if I play a big, heavy, lots of creatures, and these are flying creatures, he can't counter them all. It's. I'm going to blitzkrieg this. What I'm going to do. So, but yeah, that taught me a lot, and it just expanded from there. Once I was in, once somebody showed me that game that looked so cool as a kid, and finally got to learn it, and I got in the battle, so to speak, it was on. I never stopped.
Right, and I can personally say I've been on the not fun end of the Blitzkrieg and the Scorched Earth. I remember a game, oh man, it was not too long ago, probably in the last 6 months, where we were playing, and I think I was playing Animar, or maybe it was Vivi.
Are you talking about when I played Xur?
Yeah, so
yeah, that was definitely Vivi, and that, yeah, because it was red-blue, and again, respect to Vivi, because I really enjoy that deck, but go ahead.
Right, so Vivi is doing his thing, and my goal with Vivi is to, you want to use his ability to play as many things as you can, and he's almost like a Tron commander in a way, because he's going to be the main ingredient in the deck. At least that's how I play him. So my thought process is, I got to protect him, because he's going to get targeted, and because he's just really good. He sits there, you play spells, he does stuff for free, because you just play spells, spell slinger deck, cantrips. And I had a couple of counter spells in my hand, a couple of free ones and just low cost ones, and you ended up trying to blow up the field, I think. And I was like, I'm gonna give Vivi indestructible. I don't remember what the spell was. But I ended up saving him, and you're like, all right, I'm going to counter that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to counter the counter. No, that's what you actually targeted, Vivi. You didn't do a board wipe. You targeted him with like a Vindicate or something.
Yeah, you have a better memory than me, but yeah.
Yeah.
I remember all I saw was
back.
like a couple counter spells, and that's all Dad needed. Yeah, I started saying, all right, let's go.
Yeah, you kind of went into blackout mode, like, all right, counter spells. And then you pull out Zur, and it was just not fun the next game. And I was just like, man, I was just protecting my card. Why are you getting offended about it?
Tell you, it's BJ's fault. That's my cousin who taught me to play. Yeah, once somebody counters me multiple times, it's like I go back to that like 12 and 13-year-old Ryan, and I go, no, not again. It's time to go to war.
Yeah, and when I started playing with him, so it's kind of funny, and we can probably talk about this a little bit, kind of how we met. But when I started playing with BJ, he was playing mono blue nonsense, counter everything, and then he would play Guile. And then I think Guile does something ridiculous, like when you counter something, you get to cast that spell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just insanely good. And this was before we played Commander. This is when we would sit down at a table with 4, 5, 6 guys sometimes, and we'd just play Modern. I was playing with standard cards because I was so new to the game, but they were playing old school stuff like Priest of Titania, Dan and his Elves. You were playing Elementals. That was the deck I remember you had the most, but BJ always had that blue deck, man, and it was just so hard to play against because he was so good with it. He could counter everybody at the table before it got back to his turn. He just played it so well. That's his go-to. And thankfully, he doesn't play that anymore as aggressively. He's kind of swayed into like, he's really good at mono black, which is fun. Mm-hmm. He's got some blue splashed into decks, and he does counterspell, but his counterspells aren't like as frequent. It's more like very precise, and I know this is really bad, so I'm going to counter that.
Yeah, well, and that's ideally what you're doing with counterspells, right? You're not like, and to be fair to BJ, right, we were all very young, so he was single-minded like I can imagine I was as well, where I was like, let me throw bodies at this until they die, and he was like, let's stop whatever they're doing until I get a chance to do what I want, the typical control player. But now, yeah, like most of us, if in more competitive pods, we're just counterspelling. We're not using Force of Will on Cultivate. We're using Force of Will on your win con, more than likely. So yeah, now it's very rational what he's countering for the most part.
Right. And we'll just kind of segue into that as well, because it was kind of interesting how we started playing Magic together. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong and tell me your perspective. But I remember we used to play basketball together at our local church. Every Friday night they had this thing called The Launch. And it's basically where a bunch of kids would go and play basketball, maybe shoot pool, play air hockey. And it was to keep kids somewhere safe and out of trouble. It was a really good idea, to be quite honest, because the crowd that was there, if they weren't there, they could probably get a lot of bad things done if they wanted to, just being ornery kids. So I remember playing with you a lot, playing basketball, and playing with one of our friends, Matt, and Tyler, and a couple other guys. And, you guys were a little older than me, but I loved competing against you guys. That was probably my favorite thing, was you guys were older, but you would come and you would bring it to me, and you didn't care that I was a couple years younger. And it made me a better player, and I thoroughly enjoyed the challenge. And most of the time, I would get, smoked, which was fine. But, dude, it made me just a better player at the game. I wasn't anything crazy by any means, but
I felt like you had good accuracy, though, because like one thing I never developed talent for, which was like 3-point shots and that type of stuff, right? I was always like drive the paint, use the fact that I'm not a big guy, like be in there low and aggressive, and then like, blow past people, use speed, where I felt like you had an easier time, right? Because you actually had accuracy, so you could shoot from back at the 3-point line or a little closer in or whatever, but actually make a shot. So it worked out well for you.
Yeah, I'd get lucky every now and then, and Blind Squirrel would find a nut and make a basket. And it's cool because I think our personalities meshed really well because, like, yourself, Matt, I know Tyler played Magic for a little bit, but we were all very driven when it came to playing the game. We were all very competitive, and we had the drive to have our best versions of ourselves when we played it. And that bleeds a lot over to the way we play Magic, which is cool. Like, that's how we are now. Like, we have this drive to be the best player we can be and, be optimal and play the game in what we consider to be a competitive, fun way. And so, without getting back into Magic so much, that's how we met. And I remember we played Airsoft a little bit, which was, again, competition, competitiveness.
Yep.
And we shared a mutual friend, Dan, who did all this stuff with us. And I believe I started playing Magic with him because he found out that I play Magic. And or it could have been the other way around. Hey, Dan plays Magic, BJ plays Magic, we should all play. And that's how we started playing, was through sports and Airsoft, which I consider a sport too. So we all kind of have that competitive drive. We like to push each other in fun ways, and whether that's something physically we do more or less now that we're old, we all kind of do it just mentally and try to sharpen each other, which is a lot of fun. But what was your perspective on that whenever we met and started kind of doing that stuff?
I mean, I remember the basketball games. That was great. I still love basketball. What any we'll say sport that gets you to run and get like cardio, but it's actually fun and it's not like running, because I'm going to tell you, just running for the sake of running, it just ain't happening for me. It's awful. All I do is think about, why am I running? This is just god awful. And basketball, it was like, no, you have to be able to have some cardio because I've got to drive the hoop. So it was awesome. And so yeah, those were fun. Yeah, it kind of bled into everything, right? So like you said, Airsoft, same thing. And ultimately, like that competitive spirit, like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head with Hammer, which it led into playing Magic, and to today, where we do play what I consider CEDH, you know what I mean? I can't even say it today.
Competitive.
Yeah. Elder Dragon Highlander. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, but that's why we're playing competitive now. Yeah, I think it's just because it's how we are. Like, we're driven to keep excelling as much as we can and elevating what we're doing. And it's good if you have a good team, which anybody listening, I recommend develop your play group. You know what I mean? Get good people around you who are a good sport, who want to play the style of Magic you want to play, because that's one thing we're blessed with, is that we have a lot of guys who want to like do insane things in CDH, but they, for the most part, there's always tempers, right? Anytime you do something competitive, you could have somebody like there's some arguments or something. We're human, but for the most part, like, you just go, all right, he comboed off, that's it, let's scoop and go to the next. It was all good. So there's a good spirit about it. So yeah, anybody listening, make sure your play group's on par with that. If you guys want to be casual, there's nothing wrong with it being a filthy casual in Magic if you want to be, but make sure everybody's agreeing, because I think that helps the spirit of the game. It keeps you and your friends coming back and playing, because that's with us. As we get older, it is really cool that we can get together, still play Magic. Sometimes some of our friends, if it wasn't for Magic, we probably wouldn't hardly ever talk to them, because life gets busy. Most of us have kids and families and all these things. And it's the one thing that's stuck over the years that keeps us getting back together, having fun, reconnecting and catching up and all that. So it could be a very net positive thing in your life, if you want it to be, if you develop a really good group of friends who have that same mentality as you, want to go have fun. And it's not about like always getting the win. It's about just the experience of the game and getting with friends. So it's a blessing. So thankfully we have it, and it moved into that with us, from basketball, Airsoft, all these things we were doing into this, and still thriving today.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, give you a little future sight, we'll probably have an episode where we go into detail about building your play group, kind of how to do that, what can be successful, what might not be successful. So that's something
Yeah.
we really pride ourselves on as our play groups. We have multiples, like I said before, is we have the OGs, and then we have our new guys, which kind of birthed Level 9 Magic Club. And,
Yeah, I mean, really, because we're teaching guys to play Magic, you know, in this group, and it inspired us to kind of talk about this podcast forum, right? Because how do we benefit others? Like, we're answering a lot of the same questions. I think we've got a good format of how to teach people and bring them in and let them have fun with this. And so it's like, why not put this in, I guess, in this podcast form? If anybody's crawling the depths of the internet and happen to find it and say, hey, you know, there's some insight here, this can help me. Hopefully it does, you know, helps you build your play group up or help you look at Magic in a different perspective or whatever. But that's what we're doing with these guys, right? We're trying to build them up, let them, you know, get the enjoyment out of Magic that we have over the years. And yeah, it's really cool to see. And it's cool to see, I know you see this as well, when you're showing them stuff, and it can be a grind sometimes. They're just like, they're not getting it, and it's hard to convey, I'll say in my case, 25 years of experience and failures in building decks, and, you know, the highs and lows, and then try to condense it into laser focused stuff for somebody to pick up and use, you know, a concept to make them better. But when they do, when they finally clicks and their deck like gets that win, like, you know, thinking of Mike the other day with his infinite combo of the Kefka flipped Kefka Court Mage with Psychosis Crawler and getting that infinite damage going on and going, oh, hey, that's a thing. And getting a win because of that on me. And I'm like, hey, great. It was this great epiphany, like, oh, okay, I can do this. I see what they're saying now. You know, so that's always really cool to see when guys' eyes light up and they go, okay, this is it.
Right. And the cool thing with all of that is that not only is it just Magic, and like you said, it's airsoft, it's basketball, it could be football, just whatever your other likes are, that sticks over the years. I mean, we keep coming. We don't do sports as much because it's kind of hard where we're at to find somewhere to play. But, you know, airsoft we're even coming back to just because of the memories we have of it and how fun it was. And the other thing that Magic can be as well is depending on, you know, how old you are. If you're a young guy or gal in, you know, your early 20s and you're getting into the game, you start a collection, and, you know, you might think that, man, these cards are really expensive or it's going to be hard to make a collection. 10 years is going to flash in the blink of an eye. And before you know it, you're going to have an amazing collection. And if you're lucky one day and blessed enough to have kids, that's something you can pass on to them. And Magic is a really good resource to, you know, if you got young kids that are reading, depending on their reading level, Magic will help with that. And you can watch them enjoy the game that you like a lot. I know that's one thing I look forward to, is to teach my kids one day, like Magic, and have them see all my old cards and have that click. So with that being said, you mentioned the infinite combo and the click that Mike had, and was like, holy crap. I remember the look on his face, because we were sitting, you know, he was playing you. I was sitting beside him, kind of watching what he was doing, because we're trying to coach these guys up, and he had that aha moment. So what was that for you? What was that aha moment that really just made the game awesome?
I would say, to harken back to the previous story, like I said, when I'm playing my cousin BJ and getting just rolled over for a year straight. And when I took that flying deck and finally beat him, I think that was really the first moment that I was like, okay, and the wheels started really turning. Like, if I build decks the right way, it's not about just building a deck to beat BJ, right? It's a deck. It's about building good decks just overall and in general. And as I finally beat him, which was my biggest challenge, right? Here's a guy who'd been playing a long time, and in fact, BJ had a great Magic experience himself, where when he was in high school, and I think as I'm playing, I think he was still in high school, so this might have been, you know, going on at the time, but he was like, guys would bring their decks to school. They'd play at lunch and all that stuff. Like, it was such a dominant thing. He's like, most people in their class had Magic decks. Like it didn't matter if you were a nerd or jock or who you were. Excuse me. A lot of people had these cards because it was the cool thing at the time.
So, John, not to interject and stop you there, but how cool would that have been to play Magic in school? Like,
it'd been awesome.
I wish I would have known about it. Oh yeah, it would have been so much cooler because there was so much time that I had that was downtime because, I got my work done and I was a straight A student, so I had free time to do stuff.
Nerd.
I could have played Magic. It would have been great. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just think that is such a cool concept and idea that, man, we could have played in school, but we missed that.
Yeah, how cool is that? Like, I know there's definitely a stigma with Magic, right? They, it's just like a nerd game. People go into an LGS and it's, it's just a nerd thing and don't want any part of that. But it's like, it's surprising, I think, for people, like the people we play with, it's not like what you would expect. It brings people of all walks of life to play this game that just have an interest. I mean, if you really like fantasy of anything, like if you like watching Marvel stuff, if you read fiction books, or you like Game of Thrones, any of that stuff, if you can kind of get along with the concepts and rules of a fantasy world, like those stories, Magic ain't much different. The difference is here's a story, and there's even lore behind it, a little less now because we're borrowing IPs, but that's a different tangent. But there's something you can get behind, and then you get to interact with that world, which is really cool. It's kind of like what gaming is, right? It's storytelling in an art form in which you get to interact and make those decisions as well. So it's really cool. So it brings people together, and having, like, if you'd gone to high school and everybody, like, didn't matter, like, maybe you weren't friends with this guy, you were in a different clique, so you know how kids are in high school, but you all came together and played cards that united people. What a cool idea. So definitely wish that was a thing.
Right. And one thing, when it comes to different walks of life, that's what makes the game interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So one of our friends, Matt, he's been almost playing for a decade now, which is crazy to me because I still feel like it's only been a couple years ago when we were in your house and teaching him how to play and explaining the game to him. But the dude is such a competitor. Like, he loves to compete in anything. But he's also very hard-headed sometimes. And I remember we would try to get him to play, and he would be like, hey, let's play some Airsoft. And we're like, no, we already got Magic scheduled. Like, we're not playing Airsoft. We're playing Magic. And he'd be like, oh, and he'd make fun of us. He'd say the most ridiculous stuff. And luckily, his ego was easy enough to push to say, well, you would just suck at it, and we would beat the tar out of you. You can't play.
Right. There's no way you could play it. Everybody agrees you're terrible, and you should never try this. And then he's like, well, yeah, all right, then I'll try it. Like,
yeah. So luckily for us, it was easy to get him to play. But I'm not saying you should do that to your friends. But if you have a friend that's got a little bit of an ego and is competitive, that's an easy way to get him to play. And we got him to play.
Just be like, hey, sorry, this is a smart guy's game. It's not for guys like you to maybe just bounce a ball around. That's okay, buddy. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And then they're just like, okay, it's on.
Yeah. And it's really fun to play Magic with him. He's a great player, and he picks up on stuff easy, and he's got a lot of really good decks. Unfortunately, when we taught him to play, he took a really good approach of getting a little bit from everybody. And unfortunately, the part that stuck with him was playing with BJ and counter spells, and be
the control player.
So we almost got a BJ 2.0 in a way for a while. And his go-to commander, at least from my opinion, he might say something else, but his go-to commander is Nezahal, Primal Tide, which I don't know how all of us missed that card. He's such a good card.
Slept on, yeah.
So slept on. Even today, like, he's not ran in enough blue decks. So if you have a blue deck, put him in there. You will thank us later. He's
kind of a pain.
He's a better Rhystic Study, that's for sure. If you don't like Rhystic Study, or you don't like people playing it, just play Nezahal. He costs 7 mana, but every time you play a non-creature spell, you draw a card. Or not you, but your opponents. And I'm telling you, when you play Commander, you're drawing cards out the wazoo. Oh, and by the way, you don't have a maximum hand size, and he protects himself. So
Yep.
he's insane. He's such a good card, and it was really cool to see Matt kind of capitalize on that. But that's how you do it. You just get people from different walks of life, come get them to play the game with you, and it's a good time all around, especially if you can bring like food. Just have
Make it a thing.
quite literally the gathering, and that's what keeps us coming back. We get to hang out with our friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like people who play D&D, right? I think even right now, as we, record this in 2026 February, D&D is like on this weird upswing, right?
Thank you, Stranger Things, by the way.
Yeah, that's probably a big part of it, and but it's the same feel. I mean, obviously, Wizards of the Coast makes both games, but it's friends coming together and they're telling a story. Now, D&D is a bit more direct with the I'm telling a story thing, but Magic definitely, it's a cool game of lore and fantasy and all these things, and you're coming together, battling it out, using monsters and different things to battle it out. It's cool. It's cool. And again, this is a good social thing. There's people who, look, they struggle with the social aspect of life too, especially at this day and age where you wouldn't have to go outside and touch grass if you really didn't want to. You'd probably work from home and do everything you wanted to do in the house, get your groceries delivered, all the things. But if you're a person who typically is shut up a lot, and Magic's the one thing that gets you out of the house with some friends in a social environment, then it's doing some good. That's cool. And as long as you're playing with people, like I said before, in that right spirit of they're there to have fun, to uplift each other, help each other with the decks. Like they see you play a deck and maybe you didn't win this game and they go, man, that was a great pod. And if I was building this, have you tried this mechanic or this mechanic? And maybe they'll help you out. Like, if it's that type of group of friends, that's awesome. Hang on to those people. They're going to get you through hard times. I know even in my life, as things come up where I struggle, everybody has stresses, different things, especially if you have kids or your parents are elderly or, work's tough. Life brings hard things at you. And I will say that Magic's a good reliever of stress. I can just work on a deck. I can play Arena or go on a Saturday night or something to play a pod with friends. It is such a relief for some of the stresses in life. So it is. I think there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah, of course. And just getting around the table and playing a fun game that you love to play with the people that you love to be around is almost second to none. I mean, it's probably the most important thing in your life is to have relationships. That's everything, right?
Absolutely.
So, and when you're playing the game and it's not your turn, you can talk to another person, at the table and chew the fat, and it kind of helps you unwind and break down maybe some of those things that have been bothering you. Just kind of, I don't want to say escape, but it almost lets
kinda
you.
Is.
It's kind of like that, but I would almost say it was an immersion of socially constructive relief. I mean, it's just
it's good for you.
It's great for you.
I mean, your brain needs a moment, right? I mean, if you're like me, fortunately, and like when stressors show up in life, I will that's what I'm thinking about until the mission's accomplished, right? Like I've got to do this thing. So until it's done, I'm going to dwell on it. It's really annoying. Well, Magic is the break in that script. You know what I mean? Like if it's running over and over in my head, if I get to play Magic, I can't dwell on something for a moment because I'm going to get my teeth kicked in this pod if I'm not in the game. So it is a nice release. You just play, you immerse yourself in the game, the conversations around you, and have fun and try to do ridiculous things in Magic and see what can happen. And it really can be good mental health practice, I guess.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me tell you what made Magic stick for me, and then we'll wrap this episode up and and get hopefully to the next one soon. So, for me, like I said, I started in Duels of the Planeswalkers 2012, and my friend that taught me to play, it was all through Xbox, and we would play. There was a two-headed giant mode where, after you played the story and you unlocked all the decks, you could play two-headed giant and arch enemy against like Nicol Bolas, and it was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
And we would play 1v1s a lot, and I could never ever beat that guy. Didn't matter what deck I used, didn't matter what deck he used, he just had the experience, and he would just beat me around, and he'd giggle, and I'd get upset, not like a mad upset, I'd just be like, man, like this, it's so tough to play this game. I can beat the bots, I can actually beat other people in 1v1s online, because all the decks were pre-made. This game was not a deck building game. Everything was pre-made, so you knew what everybody had, and there was a deck he would play, and even if I played the mirror match, it was a mono black vampire deck, and he just kicked my butt with it all the time. And he actually built a paper version similar to it. It was way better than the Duels of the Planeswalker deck too, by the way. It was mono black vampires. It had one of my favorite vampires, Vampire Nocturnus, in it. So not only Vampire Nighthawk,
Captivating?
I don't remember Captivating Vampire, but
Okay.
he had Bloodlord of Vazgoth in it, Blade of the Blood Chief, the original Drana. He's probably going to get mad at me for not knowing or not remembering all those cards, but he had all these kill spells, Go for the Throat, all these just amazing vampires and control and creatures, and he would just beat me all the time. And my first deck that I ever played was a mono green deck on that game.
You don't say.
Yeah, and it had like Garruk's Companion. I think that's the only green card I can remember, but it just had a bunch of big stompy creatures with some ramp spells like Rampant Growth. And you would just ramp into these big green creatures and you'd try to run through their face. And that was so fun to me. Like anytime I could get big creatures out there and just stomp somebody into the dirt, like, man, that was cool. I was like, man, that was a lot of fun. But when I played him, I couldn't beat him. Didn't matter what deck I played. Didn't matter if I ran the blue deck, which had some counter spells in it and some control. He would just beat the snot out of me. So I started playing Paper Magic. I played a mono green deck. And I think one of the first mythics I pulled was a foil Primordial Hydra. And it's like 2 green and X. It comes in with X1/1 counters on it, and you double its counters every upkeep. You're on your upkeep every time, so it just gets really big. And I'd play him, and I'd upgrade this deck, take things out, and I'd put like Plummet in my deck, which is like kill target creature with flying.
Like flying, yeah.
Yeah, because he'd just make a ton of flying vampires, and it never mattered because he would always have an answer, and he would just kill me. Well, so I'd been playing for a little while, and Innistrad comes out, and Innistrad was really cool because it had vampires, so something he enjoyed,
Yeah.
and it came out with red vampires, and I was like, man, like I'm trying to figure out. It kind of sucks because in a way it was like I want to beat his deck. It wasn't really I want to beat him. It was a little bit of both, but I was like, what's the best thing I can do to beat his deck without really building a deck just to beat his deck that could build beat anything else, like. And they printed this card called Olivia Valderin, and it basically lets you steal like deal a damage to a creature, and then you could pay, I can't remember the cost, it was like 5 mana or something like that, or 2 mana, and you could steal a creature and steal a vampire.
Make him a vampire, right?
Yeah, it would make him a vampire, and you could steal vampires.
Yeah, it's something like that, yeah.
So I built this red-black vampire deck because I was like, I'm going to fight fire with fire. And I got Olivia out and stole his vampires. And, well, when you steal vampires and they don't go back, it's kind of hard to beat. And, it was kind of a cheap play on me, but only playing the game for like 2 months, that was the first time I beat him and got a win. And so it was such like a weight off my shoulders to finally say, man, I finally beat the guy one time out of 1,000 that taught me the game. This is awesome. So he didn't just play mono black vampires all the time. He taught me to play with
sure
the
not.
green deck. Yeah, and his play style and my play style are very, very similar just because he taught me the game, and he would play red green dragons. So I would say his favorite cards are dragons. Dragons, dinosaurs, vampires in that order. I think he'd be proud of me.
The dude looks like Sarkhan. I mean, he might as well play dragons.
Yes. Yep. He loves Sarkhan. That's like his second favorite planeswalker. Or no, Sarkhan. I was thinking Sorin. Sorry. So Sarkhan is his favorite planeswalker, and I think Sorin's his second. But he plays these crazy good red green decks, and they were always like ramping out 5 or 6 mana by turn 3, and then playing just some big giant thing that just smashes you in the face. And usually it was a dragon. Usually. And that was awesome for me. Like, when I saw that, I was like, dude, that is so cool. Like, you're telling me I can get this 6/6 dragon out that deals damage when it enters, and it can attack immediately, and I can just, smash somebody with it? And he's like, yeah, man, how awesome is that? And that's when I got hooked. I was just like, dragons are awesome. They've always been cool in my book. So getting to play dragons or just big green creatures in general that just let me slap people around. My favorite thing to tell new players is, there's a bunch of different strategies. You can kind of go wide, or you can go over the top. I like to go through people's faces to beat them. And that's just my play style. And I've played like that for a very long time. And it's just, that's what made Magic stick, was just playing big, beefy creatures that can just beat people down.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's something. I definitely, playing you today, it's like 5 seconds. I swear, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to play, tap this and play Arcane Signet. Yeah, okay. And play this cool artifact here. I'm like Bob Ross over here making a painting. And then I'm like, okay, I got a creature. And then I look up and it's like, what does Fuzz have? He's like, oh, he's only got like 10, 8/8 flying things with trample. When did that happen? So yeah, it's effective.
Very, very effective. Well, man, I think that about does it for our first episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we went on enough tangents, and I'll be excited to get into the nitty gritty with these next couple episodes. But you get a feel for us, I think. Hopefully, people listening, we're going to be talking a lot about Commander concepts, culture. Hopefully, like even helping you with like where to get cool stuff. Your sleeves, your dice, tokens, all these cool things. And then just like we just did, we're going to be talking about cool stories, experiences, hopefully bringing on some of these people we're talking about here in this opening with their insight on some of their stories, some of the cool times and how they learned. And I'm sure any listeners will see themselves in some of these people as well, because your journey is probably going to run similar, right? Somebody's going to teach you how to play Magic more than likely, or you find Arena and you're like, what's this game? And I'll try it, and ends up getting you there. But I want to say, just as a final note, it took you 2 months to beat, your mentor, the guy who taught you to play Magic. It took me like a year. So it just goes to show you the ape level I'm at, because it took me so long to go, hey, let me add flying. It took me that long. Just throwing that out there. That's a little upsetting.
It's okay. You've come a far long way, young Padawan.
But yeah, I guess I was still pretty smooth brained at 12, 13 years old. So I mean, I'll give myself some credit. I wasn't fully developed quite yet, and flying was, good for me.
Yeah, I'm still not fully developed, so don't feel bad.
But anyways, yeah, hopefully you get something out of this, and enjoying the game, or if you're just coming into the game, hopefully we can help color perspective and expectations as well, because don't get discouraged. You come into a game where there's expensive cards, yes, but man, start early on with like precons or something simple, digestible, you can understand. Play Arena, that really helps teach you the game, and then find a good group of friends who want to play and have fun, and I think you're going to be in good shape.
I agree. And if you made it this far, welcome to Level 9 Magic Club. I hope you enjoyed listening to us and some of our stories and getting to know our backgrounds. And hopefully you come back for a couple more episodes and we have something interesting for you to listen to. And hopefully maybe just maybe get you into the game of Magic and teach you how to form a group and some great friendships along the way.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, man, as always, it's fun to hang out and talk with you. I will see you next time.